Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about intentional communities. This is something that I personally find very interesting and is often overlooked in our society. These have been around for thousands of years and are often things that you've heard of but you've never really made the connection to as what they are. So, what is an intentional community? These communities are very subjective and really personal to an individual, but a commonly accepted definition for intentional communities is that they are planned residential communities designed to have a high degree of social cohesion and teamwork. Members typically hold a common social, political, religious, and spiritual vision and often follow an alternative lifestyle. So really, what does all that mean? Basically, it is groups of people who come together and sort of work together, provide for a community, provide for one another in order to promote their beliefs, whether they be peaceful, harmful, religious, political. Really, it's an opportunity for them to go as individuals and find people who are just like them. I figured that the best way to tell you all about intentional communities would be to give you real-life examples of what they are and how these communities are benefiting from one another and how they're contributing to the outside world. The first community that I'm going to speak about is the community of Tamara. This is a peace research project that is developed into a very successful community that is free from negativity, hatred, bad feelings. They really base themselves off of peace and love and have even done research with one another about love within the community. So with that being said, Tamara has been described as an acupuncture point of peace, a greenhouse of trust, a prototype for an existence free of fear on this planet, a post-capitalistic societal model, and a place where the human and the meta realm of life come together. I know that probably sounds really crazy, but all they're trying to say here is that, like I said before, they are a community based on cohesion, teamwork, love. They really try to avoid any negativity if possible, which honestly sounds crazy, but this community is doing it and they're thriving doing it. The next community that I'm going to talk about is the Acorn community. This is one of the more well-known communities and definitely probably one of the most successful of all time. This community is an anarchist and egalitarian community. They are non-hierarchical, non-hierarchical, and a lot of their beliefs and stuff are voluntary. They are not focused on forcing people into their beliefs, forcing them to follow the rules. Of course, they are highly encouraged, and oftentimes people who join are people who already would likely conform to those rules. Okay, here we have, this actually came from one of the founders of the community. He says, in the early years of Acorn's experience in Little Rock seemed to confirm and deepen the core commitments and values that have enlightened the organizational experience over subsequent decades. Majority constituency, multi-issue and multiracial, power in numbers and ballot boxes, tactical flexibility. With each of these components, that is what they used to build their community and find members. They understood what it took and what it will take to keep people and keep people happy. They definitely are focused about building themselves, but at the same time, their main priority will always be their members. So some of the really cool features of this community is that they are income sharing and all of their needs are based off of one another. They have to provide for themselves and their neighbors, whether that be food, shelter, or medical attention. All of their decisions are also based off of a council, sort of like how we have a democracy today, but sort of in their own realm. Just like the other community, they have strong bonds, cohesion, teamwork. They may not be as love-based, but they definitely have a lot of love for one another and what they believe in. The next community is the East Wind community. Here you see a lot of peace and acceptance. They work together a lot in terms of food and shelter, just as I mentioned before in the Acorn Society. They definitely encourage you to go into this community and find something that you feel comfortable doing, your niche, something that you know you're going to be good at and that's going to allow you to contribute the most and the best to this community. So here you see it says, qualitative research performed at East Wind, including interviews with its members, portrays a society that places significant value on the individual dignity of the members, the achievement of economic justice by a sharing of resources and emphasis on human relationships in the community. This is really important to this community because they definitely do after a lot of research, they definitely base a lot of their livelihood off of one another. And that's very hard for some people to, have someone else basically holding themselves in their hand. Something really unique about this community as well is that they each have a salary. It's very interesting because with this salary, it's set for every person and it's the exact same. They have, of course, the free will to do with their money as they wish, but of course you can suspect that their money then in turn goes back into the community, of course, to provide for themselves and others. This next community is the Ganas community. This community bases a lot of its reasoning off of emotions and problem solving, which is definitely very unique from the previous communities that we've seen before. But of course, like the others, they have a lot of cooperative care, sharing. They do love each other and base a lot of their needs off of one another. This was actually in an article which quoted the founder of this community, and she said, "Communities will provide the experimental laboratories in which to develop urgently needed models for necessary, very basic changes in societal, educational, and possibly medical structures as we now know them." So as you can see, this community in particular is definitely focused on bettering the outside world. They use what they have and the people they have to think, to have logic, to have reasoning, to make advances, all, of course, to better their community, but they also have a lot of focus on bettering us, outside of that, which is very thoughtful as, not all of these communities do things in order to better us outside of them. The last community that I'm going to speak about today is the Finn Horn community. This community is spiritual with new human consciousness and with positive aspects for the future. So they as well are very focused on bettering themselves now in order to make their futures even better. They have a lot of cooperation and contributions. They want you to be in touch with your inner selves. They don't have any authority or rules in which people to abide by. So that seems pretty scary, but of course most of the people that come here obviously have the same mindset, the same goals, there's really no need for rules. Here we have a few quotes that were very good at describing the community as a whole and some of the things they believed in. So it says, "The Finn Horn community plays a significant part in the revolution that is gently changing the world. It is simply put, a revolution of love whose aim is to put spirituality back into the center of human identity." Really, they're just wanting us to focus on ourselves and to make ourselves better, even those outside of them. So, in conclusion, you can see that these communities are very people-based. The people who come here have good hearts and good intentions. They love living in these communities, although they may seem scary to us, because, they are with their people. They find their people. These communities are focused on the betterment of oneself. Obviously most of them were based off of peace and acceptance, teamwork, cohesion, all of those things that honestly we probably need to implement into our society today. I think these intentional communities are very good, and I hope they continue to grow, get larger, become more popular, do more, do better. Because obviously we seem as though we should probably take a few notes from them, as they're doing something right, as their members are very happy, very successful, and the communities are thriving. Hopefully this presentation allowed you to learn a little about intentional communities and hopefully gave you a positive outlook on what they are and hopefully what they could be. Thank you.